Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to David's Den. I'm David and I make videos about Stephen King, his novels, his short stories, and any adaptations that were made for film or television. Today is very special because we are moving along in the Night Shift movie vlog. We are 2 stories away from finishing all 20 of them in Night Shift in this 7 to 8 month journey. By the time all the videos get posted, there are so many fucking adaptations of these stories, and many of them feature length. But today we're going to be doing a short film, and we're going to be joined by a very special guest, Sebastien Labelle. Whew. I said, this daddy needs a break. His last name literally means the beautiful. Hey, Sebastien Labelle. I'm single. He's gorgeous, but we're not going to harass him today, okay? Just keep it to yourself. Sebastien Labelle is joining me today because we're going to be doing a watch-along of One for the Road for all of my Patreon subscribers, and we're going to be doing a movie vlog edited version of that watch-along for YouTube, and I am very excited. Are you there?
Hello.
Hello, Sebastien. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for doing this.
It's my pleasure. I'm excited too. I feel like this has been a long time coming. So here we are.
In a way, you're actually almost bookending my journey, because one of the reasons it took so long is right as I started the Night Shift vlogs, Chapelwaite started. We're doing the top 10 insert appropriate expletive moments of Chapelwaite, which, as you know, is the very first book or first story in Night Shift, right? Jerusalem's Lot. And now, except for the woman in the room, which comes after what we're doing today, you are literally the first 2 minutes of Chapelwaite.
No, Father!
And now the last story in Night Shift almost.
Blood calls blood, son.
No!
You are bookending this journey for me. I think that's amazing.
That's great. I'm happy to be your bookends.
I picture just a bust of Sebastian's head, on my bookshelf.
Right.
I have that. Before we jump in, why don't you, I want to give you a chance to tell everyone what you're doing, what's happening at Bus Stop right now. I know we talked about Bus Stop Theater recently. What's happening in your life since we've talked to you last?
That's mainly what's been, taking a hold of my life besides, my kids and family.
I saw your dog party invitation this morning.
I know. That's my daughter's initiative, was to write these little invitation cards to each one of us.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, in addition to being an actor, I'm also the executive director of the Bus Stop Theater Cooperative, which is a cooperative that runs a small independent black box theater here in Halifax. And of course, it's been a rough time with COVID managing a theater, but we've been also, we just came out of a campaign to purchase the building, which we use to operate the theater.
You were telling me, and then renovations, right?
That's right. And so we're currently renovating it now. COVID has had a big impact on the construction industry in terms of supply chain and demand on labor, construction. And so it's just thrown our project for a loop in terms of cost inflation and just timelines going
so many things we didn't expect from COVID, right? These kind of outlying repercussions. Outside of the construction, the renovations, you've been having live performances, right? Or readings of some sort? I've seen some things through your Instagram and Twitter accounts.
I was hired as an actor in a production by Eastern Front Theater and Halifax Theater for Young People. And the play was to be presented in January, but then the last wave of COVID kind of canceled those plans. But we still went ahead and rehearsed the play and basically staged it, but for cameras to produce a video that can be toured to schools. So it's a play for young audiences, and the hope was to have audiences come and see it live, but it was taped so that a recorded version can be toured in schools. But we're still hoping to, we're planning to restage it in June this time to live audiences. So
that's wonderful. Please keep us posted.
I'm also the festival director of a festival coming up called Mayworks. And so it happens every month of May. And so that's also what's been keeping me busy these last few weeks as we kind of prepare a program of events for this coming May, and of course with all kinds of contingencies in case whatever happens.
They're saying numbers are going up again. Who knows? Tell everyone what we're doing today. I've already done a little intro before you came on. We are doing the watch along for what?
Oh my God. I really should have studied. It's the...
You should have studied. It's your final exam, Sebastian.
I know. It's not the long road, long journey into night. No.
Before I leave this bar, I want just one for the road.
One for the road. That's it.
And like I mentioned earlier about the book ending, for those of you who haven't been following along, you've probably heard of the name, the book Salem's Lot, which is Stephen King's vampire novel, 1974, I believe, 74 or 5. And then when Night Shift, the short story collection came out, he did a short story that opened that collection that had not been published anywhere before. Most of the Night Shift collection are things that were published in magazines, usually like Penthouse or Ubris, like they were all adult magazines before he became an author. Before he became Stephen King. So Jerusalem's Lot got turned just this past, September, October into a TV series called Chapelwaite that Sebastien Labelle took my breath away because he's absolutely gorgeous in that very first scene. Hey, Sebastien Labelle. I'm single. Excuse me, I promised I wasn't going to harass you, so I'm not going to. He's gorgeous, but we're not going to harass him today, okay? Just keep it to yourself. Jerusalem's Lot takes place about 70 years before Salem's Lot. They call it a prequel. I've heard people call it that, but it's really more a companion piece, I would say. It really doesn't have anything to do with vampires, even. That's something the Filardi brothers added in to the Chapelwaite production, because there's just one line. There's one line where he recognizes Philip and Marcella, who is turned into a vampire in the short story. He recognizes them in the basement as Nosferatu, and he runs out of the basement, and we never hear about it again. It's all about the worm deity, right? And now One for the Road is the sequel that takes place 2 years after Salem's Lot. Sebastian has read the story, and we are going to
even though I couldn't remember the title, I have read it.
You're fine. Can you give us a little synopsis of the short story?
So I read One for the Road a few months ago, but I kind of purposefully didn't go back to it before this segment, just to kind of, have it kind of at the back of my mind. So I know that the gist of the story is that a family from out of town kind of comes in on a blizzard in this bar, asking the father of the family barges in and asks for help to go basically rescue his wife and daughter that are stranded in his car, which went off the road or is stranded in the blizzard. But it's near Jerusalem's Lot, and so the owner of the bar and a regular are apprehensive about doing this, but they decided to go on this mission to save the daughter and wife from what they know are vampires.
You remember it very well. Very well. So the only thing I would add to that the plow goes by at the beginning of the short story. The guy takes him a beer, and they never go off the side exit to Jerusalem's Lot because it's an abandoned town now. And it was literally the drift on the exit ramp that the car got stuck in. So his direction's going to his wife's sister's up in Cumberland, which is actually where Carrie takes place.
All right.
Yeah, these are literally towns up the road from one another, following the directions down Jointner Avenue, which will line up with the map that you get in your head as Stephen King explains the layout of Salem's Lot. So all of that lines up really well with the novel, and I love that. And I'd say, so it's Herb Tucklander. I love that name. It's Tukey's Bar. And Booth, we never get a first name. And Gerard Lumley, Jerry, and his family. And I love, you mentioned that he's from out of town, and one of my favorite quotes in the book, and I'm going to get this wrong, but I'll find the real thing and put it up. Booth says something along the line, he's probably from New York. Like, no one's more foolish than a person from New York. Why is he out driving in this blizzard? Stupid, outsider, this is Maine. And then when he tells them, I'm from New Jersey, he says the only person more foolish from New York is a person from New Jersey. I went to school in New Jersey and I live in New York. So that made me really laugh. Here's how my watch-alongs work. I don't know if you've seen any of the watch-along videos I've posted.
I've seen a couple, yeah.
So basically, I'm going to start the short film. I found it. It's let me give this information. It was a short film made in 2011 on the Dollar Baby program. One for the Road was originally published in 1977 Maine magazine. Written and directed by Paul Ward. I have some credits here. I'll put them all down below for the actors. I have not seen this. I did not preview it. The most I've done is kind of skim through 2 or 3 that I found and was like, okay, this looks like the one I might want to watch. We try to approach this from a critical perspective, talk about what works, what didn't, both in terms of craft and technique on the film on its own, and as an adaptation of the story, whether it's shifts from plot but is still adherent to tone and theme, like all of that gets factored in. So we're going to start watching it. And for my Patreon subscribers, they get this whole thing unedited. And then I will cut out highlights. And that's what the YouTube subscribers get for the vlog style breakdown. Are you ready to do this with me?
I'm so ready.
Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen and I can see our heads floating on the side.
Oh, that's weird. Because oh, wait, I hit that button. Wait, I can't see us. I love this music.
It's much worse if you're driving.
I think it's interesting they switched from snow to fog, but I guess it's limitations of short filmmakers, because this is almost dialogue right from the short story. It's just saying, have you ever tried to drive in a Maine blizzard? Yeah,
it also seems like, I might be mistaken, but it looks like 3 men in the car.
I didn't see that.
The same people that were in the car earlier, though?
Daddy's just gonna run down there.
No. So I actually think that was the, looking at the short story, we have Took and Booth that get into like a heavy duty, all-terrain vehicle to be able to drive.
Right.
And it's Booth in the narration talking about the Maine storms. So I have a feeling that was an intro, and now we're with these people. It is a little confusing, you're right, because we just went from car to car, and it's kind of a dark image, right?
Yeah, and it like the split is right over the title credit or the title splash page. And so,
yeah. Oh, speaking of splash page, I did love the blood splashing. I do feel like fog lessens the threat, though.
Yeah. The kind of survival aspect of it. And also having the family stranded in the blizzard is, the need to go back to them.
These are also supposed to be like old men.
Like lifers in the bar.
I mean, the road looked pretty bad, but I figured if there's a town there, it must be all right.
Forget who's who, but was it Booth, the young guy?
Yeah.
He was just like frantically rubbing his neck, and I don't know if that but that's just anxiety or thinking of vampires.
Right? No, so I'm actually really enjoying this. This is dialogue lifted directly from the short story. This is exactly what happens minus the blizzard. I feel like there's this soap opera quality of it.
Totally, yeah. It has a very soap feel to it. The coloration also it does feel a bit 70s, and it does have a 70s kind of B-movie horror vibe to it.
I do feel like there needs to be a sense of urgency that I don't feel at all.
Maybe it's about to pick up.
And Billy is up in Castle Rock and won't be back till after the storm.
So did you hear that? They just threw in Castle Rock, the fictional town. Right now there's a TV series about that. It's where Dead Zone took place and Needful Things, right? Like it's the famous Stephen King town that didn't exist yet when the story was written. So I like
nice
that.
Easter egg.
But Billy Larrabee's supposed to be out plowing the snow, not in Castle Rock. Just saying. I'm too picky. I know, I'm too picky.
You're telling me that you can't?
We've already established there's no snow.
I'm telling you nothing.
The score is the best thing about this. I love it.
So that's the opening shot.
Yeah.
It's those 3 in the car.
They may be dead already. Dead or something worse. What?
Okay, they're not almost dead already if no one is wearing a heavy coat and there's no blizzard.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking that. I mean, it's a shame about. I mean, I understand why they wouldn't have a blizzard on a low budget, but it does remove that imminent threat that, like, regardless of the vampires, the family being stranded in the blizzard, that there's in the father's mind, that's the threat, and it is a threat that's driving. Whereas just being kind of like out in the fog just doesn't feel
exactly. He's literally saying they're going to freeze to death. So yeah, it's those stakes are just not as high as I feel like as an audience member I want them to be, because it's hard.
Yeah.
The suspension of disbelief is hard for this.
Yeah. That's even just driving out, when the car was driving out in the dark, it just felt like, oh, the journey doesn't feel that menacing.
Right.
Whereas in the short story, just the fact of going out in the storm and kind of braving the blizzard feels like that itself feels like a daunting task, let alone whatever is awaiting them at the destination.
And that task is a surprise to us, that because the story starts in the bar. We don't see them driving and the car gets stalled. We hear about it after he shows up, right? They gave us that little tidbit as an opening for the short film.
Right.
So I don't mind putting that scene in there, right? It does exist, even if we only hear about it as later in the short story. I don't mind them giving us that nugget, but without the snow, or without them saying something, adding some line about keep the heater on. I hope there's enough gas. It's, negative 10 degrees outside. There doesn't have to be snow as long as it's freezing.
Yeah, that's it. There doesn't seem to be any sort of environmental threat.
Gray Matter, I don't know if you remember, I know you read the whole collection. I don't know if you remember Gray Matter, where the guy's dad turns into the blob. It's the same setup. It's 4 guys in a bar and this kid coming in and saying, come help me. And there's a blizzard outside that they have to fight through.
That's right.
The exact same setup. On the show, Creep Show, that's actually currently running. It's in 3 seasons. Their pilot episode was an adaptation of Gray Matter. They reset it to Florida in a hurricane.
Oh, interesting.
So all you need is a rainstorm, right?
Well, that's it. Yeah, like I don't know, like some sort of environmental. Were there rain, or even with just I don't know, camera shots of trees and forest that look kind of menacing. I don't know, in an Evil Dead kind of way, without necessarily having trees move or anything, but like just kind of getting that sense that there's something out there. Whether it's natural or not is unclear, but that there's something out there, and we're not really getting that sense yet.
Sorry to stop on this image, but I just have to say, like, the thing about the vampires in Salem's Lot and in this is that they look like us.
Right, yeah.
So I don't mind the grotesqueness if that's how they want to, grotesquerie, if that's what they want to do. The 79 miniseries of Salem's Lot went the Nosferatu route. But in the short story, the idea is that we get entranced, right? We're almost hypnotized by the eyes and the beauty, and we can fall into the spell of these vampires, which is what we saw him doing. But she's supposed to look just like his wife, with this green poncho billowing out around her in the beautiful snow and fog.
Yeah. It's funny, in this version, I kind of almost expected to see Apple Girl come out of the mist. And
Totally. And that's actually my one problem with the short story in regard to Salem's Lot, and actually now Chapelwaite, is that it takes a few days, a few nights of vampires feeding on someone before they turn themselves, right?
Yeah.
And here we are, without even a whole night going by, they're instantly vampires by the time they get back to the car.
I mean, there's a question here in terms of like, just looking at the vampire looking obviously so different than what his wife looked like. It begs the question: is it the wife at all, or is it a vampire who's just kind of generating this illusion, this hypnotic illusion of
that's a possibility,
being the wife, and then suddenly the hypnosis is kind of shattered, but with the attack.
In the short story, it's Booth watching all of this as Lumley gets closer and closer. It never doesn't look like his wife, though. And when she bites, Booth is like, oh, shit, and kind of gets taken out of his own hypnosis. And then one of my favorite lines it ends on is the little girl. She has no tracks in the snow. She's standing on top of the snow. And at the very end, he says, I think there's still a little... Oh, wait, I want to read it. I have it right here. That Bible that we saw gets thrown at her from inside the car as Tuke is having a heart attack, right? He's like, you have to drive. And then, are you okay? I'm 70. It's the ticket. It's been bad for about 5 years now. And then he's like getting in the shotgun seat. Booth runs around. The little girl is there. Will you help me find my mommy? And he's getting entranced. And this black thing comes flying past his ear and hits the girl. And she goes up in smoke. Snow flies around and he sees that it was the Bible that he threw. And at the very end, when a few years later, he's like, there's a little girl somewhere out there, and I think she's still waiting for her goodnight kiss. Oh, how creepy is that?
Yeah.
I think they're just using the exhaust from the other car as the call.
Yeah.
I love that ending.
Yeah, that's great. And those are, yeah, like those shots of the kind of eerie, foggy forest. It did help kind of establish a creepiness about the world that I felt wasn't there in between. It's kind of there at the beginning and at the end,
Right.
But in the moment where the characters, you know, embark on their dangerous journey, it's not really there, and so you don't feel that kind of ominous, I don't know, threat and creepiness.
Ultimately, though, I think I enjoyed this.
Yeah, me too.
It was fun. I do think that, okay, well, I was about to talk about the short story. So here's how I normally do this. I try to run down critique of film as film, and I rate it. What we can do is each give a rating and we'll average it for a final rating. I'm not used to doing this with someone else. And then we do a adaptation correlation, like how successful was it as an adaptation, and a rating.
Sure.
So thoughts on film, ignoring the short story, give me a rundown.
I mean, I liked it overall. I mean, considering, I mean, I don't know what kind of budget they had, but I thought the shots looked really good, and overall had a good sense of pace, and you know, the acting's a bit melodramatic, but it kind of worked for the type of story it is. One big flaw to me is the absence of a threat until it really gets in your face when the vampires are there. You kind of never really get why there's so much fear and anxiety about what's happening with the family being stranded there.
I kept wondering why he didn't take them with him.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? I mean,
it's not like they don't have the danger of the blizzard or a hurricane or something to walk through.
And I wonder, you know, an alternative could have been to have the car actually crash, and the family members are wounded, and so they can't make the walk. They're injured, and so they're in, you know, they are at threat just by the fact that they're stranded and injured. And so I feel like that would have given the stakes and motivation for the father to be really in a panic about this, and then all the more so when he gets there and they're not there. And it's like, how is this possible that they're not still in the car with, like, I don't know, broken legs or whatever.
That's my thing as well. Is I think the biggest drawback to me was that dad didn't have any sort of urgency about saving his family.
Yeah.
I do think I want to give him credit. The actor who played Herb Tooklander, Reggie Bannister, I thought he was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought he gave us that sense of urgency, and that's why we didn't feel it so much from everyone else.
You know, going back to I don't know if this kind of fits into adaptation also, but like to the point of them not both being old, I kind of miss, I mean, there's something to kind of the tone it sets when a character arrives and it's like two old men. What
are you doing blowing in here from outside? Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like he's landed into somebody else's world, like another, you know, and now having kind of a young guy there kind of makes the setting more contemporary than kind of ancient and traditional, you know.
And I think the musicians at the beginning did that as well. We felt like this wasn't a night that everyone was stranded at home, right? Because right from the beginning, it's in the story. It's we'll go to the adaptation correlation a little bit. It's Booth saying no one else was there. Took was closing up early. Here, have one more for the road. It wasn't that the band finished playing their gig and they were closing.
Right. Yeah.
Right. This is like normal closing time. It's closing time. You know. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, and maybe not in Jerusalem's lot either. I would agree with everything you said. That soap opera feel, I think, kind of works. But not that everybody involved was on the same page with that tone.
This is true, yeah.
Right, and that's the disjoint, I think, that really calls attention to it, rather than just letting it work as a device. I thought the effects were fairly good. You know, telling it was being able to tell this was a low-budget film. The fog worked most of the time until we saw that it was the exhaust. I loved the score.
Yeah, I like the score too.
I think that did a lot. That steady bump, bump, bump as we were like driving in the car, right? Like it tells you, okay, we're on the way to something. Like, and then there were resolutions. I really like that. So this short film forgetting that it's based on another work, how would you rate it out of 5 buckets of pig's blood?
Oh, I feel the pressure on. You know, I think I give it 3 out of 5 because I did, you know, considering that it's very likely, you know, a low budget film, but I thought, you know, the pacing was good. It didn't feel like it dragged on. It was cut really well, and there's some good shots in there. But really, its main flaw is that there isn't that sense of stakes, and the stakes are really driven in my mind by the fact that I know the story. Had I not read the story, I might rate it lower because I might have found it longer. For
It
lack
does
of
kind of drag.
state.
Yeah. See, I'm thinking. I'm with you. Like 3, I want to give it that because we've all been in that place as actors and filmmakers of working on something low budget and like doing what you can. I think they did a really great job, and I want to give that credit. But I also want to like just rate it honestly and be like, no, I'll put it right in the middle at 2.5. But I'm also like, no, I feel like that pacing held me back. I want to go down to 2. But is that because I know the short story? Right. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go with my gut feeling and settle on 2.5, right in the middle. Not good, not bad. Just I'm happy I watched it. And we
Okay,
will
I didn't know you were
average-
doing halves, so
Yeah, you can do half. I'll do. I
Alright.
normally
half
don't.
bucket.
Yeah, I don't normally do quarters, but we're going to average our 2 scores together and say that this is 2 3/4 buckets of pig's blood as a short film. As an adaptation, what are your thoughts on that? I know it's been a few months since you read it, but you're feeling what you remember, what you expected going in.
I mean, it was pretty faithful. I mean, despite, you know, the removal of the blizzard, otherwise it tried to be quite faithful to the story and dialogue of the story. I don't think it's as fresh in my mind as maybe it is with you, but it seemed to me that it followed the structure and text of the short story quite faithfully.
The dialogue, exactly. There's only a few lines of actual spoken dialogue that were taken out, but everything we heard was not created by the writers of the film. It was literally Stephen King's dialogue. So I appreciate that faithfulness, and nothing sounded odd. They just changed little things about fog instead of snow, my son instead of my daughter, Frankie instead of Francie.
I think the big drawback, which is both kind of a filmmaking and an adaptation flaw, is not replacing the threat of a blizzard, the high stakes of the blizzard with anything else. Like the fog just doesn't cut it.
And I'll go one step further to say that because other people were at that bar at the beginning, we don't have any sort of threat in the town. Why would that phone be out? Right? The phone is out because of the blizzard of the short story. When I got the brim, 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 my first thought was, oh yeah, we're in the 70s. He's getting a busy signal.
I wondered also about, you know, how the vampires and how they looked and trying to imagine, like, had they been kind of more alluring, kind of siren type vampires that kind of are more hypnotic and alluring. I mean, there's a bit of that, but then it kind of snaps out.
No, agreed. I don't mind what they did with the short film, changing the vampires, but when I look at it as an adaptation, it bothers me. It just like the 1979 Salem's Lot bothered me. You know, like here comes Nosferatu with Straker, his human familiar, as his mouthpiece. Because literally this is what happened. They put the actor and the makeup effects and the teeth were such that he couldn't speak. So and I don't know if you've ever seen the 2004 Salem's Lot that they did for TNT that Peter Filardi actually wrote.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so he actually has a history to Salem's Lot before Chapelwaite. I do enjoy it. I do think 79 is a stronger film, but I love 04 for how faithful it is. And they went with, I forget his name. He also played the head vampire in the movie of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'll look it up and put the name in. But so it is the human vampire. It just happens to have some teeth. Until they show you their teeth, you don't know that they're a vampire. And there's so frightening about that. Especially when it's your own wife or daughter.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of part of why, like, you know, Apple Girl and Chapelwaite, like that kind of look of
She was so good.
You know, yeah. But appears very beautiful, but there's something off, but it's not a monster. At face value.
They can become monsters, right?
Yeah.
They don't look like monsters, but they are horrific.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And it's that seduction, like you used the word siren earlier, that makes them frightening.
I mean, there was a bit in the film about like when the boy Frankie, was it Frankie?
His name is Francis. They went Francie for the short story, Frankie for the film.
Right. So the I guess the pre-monster moment of alluring the character is this rocking horse, and I wasn't sure about that bit. It seemed a bit out of nowhere that would be the I guess kind of like presents it at first. I mean, with the wife, it's I guess it's a silhouette in the fog, and with the boy, it's this like rocking horse. But
it's almost like they got too close with the camera and they were trying to keep him in shadow, but we saw the effect.
Yeah.
Right? And we could tell that the wife's frame in the shadow was already a little grotesque.
Yeah.
Right? Not even the same shaped body of the woman that we saw in the car at the beginning.
Yeah, so there wasn't really a surprise. You knew as soon as you saw that, like, okay, well, this is bad. There's no twist.
Like, why are you running toward her?
Yeah.
That is definitely a man, probably your size, Sebastien, like playing your wife, who's like 5'6".
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But so as an adaptation, I agree with you. I think that the storyline was followed faithfully. They just needed some other sort of dangerous element. I think we lose something not having even older men than the actor that we had playing Tuke, right? Because we want those two older men who are just like, we're frail, but we will help you because this is so dangerous that we have to do something.
Yeah, that's it. Like even their own vulnerability because of how they're old doesn't come across here. Like a young man, just doesn't present in that way.
Yeah, there's a line of dialogue in the short story when Tuke decides to go, and Booth is like, really? And Tuke's like, well, what else are we going to do? They're in Jerusalem's lot. We can't leave them there. Just in case, we can't leave them there. And that was actually a bit of dialogue that we didn't get, or if we did, it didn't land in my ear, that I remember. So yeah, I appreciate the faithfulness to the bare bones of the story, but it's the way those vampires looked and just the overall kind of melodramatic soap opera tone that bothers me, because we really have the driving force. And even though we're getting the narration from Booth, who's giving us like this, let me tell you about Jerusalem's lot, and suddenly we take a 2-page break of the events to hear about something that happened, with this drunk guy in the bar 2 years ago. So we get this kind of lackadaisical feel about it, but it's all gearing toward is bad.
Yeah.
So I felt that melodrama didn't quite capture the tone.
But yeah, it's not the feel of the story, of the short story.
The campiness of the short story, and to a degree Salem's Lot, comes from the Tales from the Crypt feel, not a soap opera feel.
Yeah.
Right? There was supposed to be a puff of smoke, a flash of light, and then a swirl of snow where the boy used to be when the Bible hits him. And I get it if you can't do that effect, right? But you didn't have to have the boy visibly running away. He could have just suddenly not been in the shot, right? And you had all the folk, and if you do some sort of crossfade, like we get that he disappeared.
And again, just going back to the youth of the Booth. I mean, I think it takes away from the, there's something about having older characters, like from an older generation, that creates a sense of otherworldliness just because they are from another world in terms of being from another generation. And it also creates that sense of folklore, when you're talking about like the dangers of what's out there. It sounds like folklore and like legends, which like if it's a 20-something-year-old or even 30-year-old saying that, it doesn't have the ring the same way. Yeah, I
think you hit it on the head, because you're entering a different world, and it's in addition to the old timers, right? If you want to say that, you also are going into this world of Maine and folklore of Maine, and like southern rural Maine, which is very much, and Stephen King does this in a lot of his books, very much that you are the outsider. Why are you in my town? Okay, so as an adaptation, how would you rate this out of 5 stars? I know this one's difficult. This one's hard for me too.
I mean, I think, well, now that I know that there's half buckets, I think I will say 2.5 on this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
2.5 buckets of pig's blood.
Yeah. I don't want to be too harsh on it.
No, my feeling is I want to go really high because of how faithful it actually was to, I'm going to use the word script because I'm talking about the dialogue, you know,
Right.
the actual spoken dialogue. But I also feel like it gets major points in the negative direction because of the tone. And a lot of that has to do with the soap opera, and a lot of it has to do with the age of the men, like you were saying.
I mean, yeah, that's, to me, it's like there's a strong faithfulness to the lines of the text, but the between the lines is a lot of it is missing.
But I can also tell, and this usually goes a long way for me, that these people, these filmmakers, love this short story.
Oh yeah.
You know, and they honored it the best they could, I think. You know, we're gonna do this again, but in reverse. I'm gonna go with 3 stars as an adaptation, or 3 buckets of pig's blood as an adaptation.
Now,
I'm not used to this.
Are they half empty or half full?
Well, you're gonna see the graphic from the actual still of the film from above as the bucket is falling. So it is a bucket like this with the blood coming out of it.
Nice. It
is literally falling pig's blood. So yeah, I guess averaged together for both adaptation and film on its own, we end up with 2 3/4 buckets of pig's blood.
Not bad.
Nice. No, I enjoyed this. I really did. I'll tell you, when I skimmed through it to see which one I wanted to watch, there was another one that was animated that I was like, I don't know what this is. I actually enjoyed this more than I thought I would, from like the little 2-minute spread out snippets that I had seen.
Yeah. I mean, I played well. I mean, I'm glad I saw it. I thought it was fun.
Thank you so much for joining me for this, Sebastian. It was so nice to see your face and talk to you.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invitation, always.
No, that's my pleasure all the time. If there is ever a Stephen King book you are reading and be like, I wonder what David might have to say about it, we can do it again.
All right.
Yeah, let me know. Coming up after this for you, I guess, is the May Fest, is what you have coming up.
May Works, yeah. Actually, I'm wearing the festival t-shirt from last year.
Nice. I like that. I like that. So I will put those links down below. If anyone wants to follow me or Sebastian, I'll put your links as well on social media or support the channel through Patreon. All of those links are down in the description, and I will see you guys next time.
Thank you so much.